Shalom. Welcome to another episode of Inspiration from Zion. I'm Jonathan Feldstein, and I have the privilege of being your host, coming to you from the Judean Mountains here in Israel. I like to refer to it as the original Bible Belt. Inspiration from Zion is a program of the Genesis 123 Foundation, whose mission is to build bridges between Jews and Christians with Israel in ways that are new, unique, and meaningful. I pray you find this all of those. Through this program, we're excited to connect you to people and stories in and relating to Israel and give you a window to look through, experiencing aspects of life here that you might not otherwise know about. We want this to be interactive, so please be in touch with us at inspirationfromzion@gmail.com and send along any questions about and any comments about any topic anytime. Or you can reach us at genesis123.co or follow and like Inspiration from Zion on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Stay tuned until the end where we're going to share an exciting opportunity, and please feel free to share this with others who will also find it of interest. Today, I'm really, really excited to introduce a woman who I consider a hero. I just physically met her visually for the first time, but I've been following her for months, and I just am so overwhelmed the amount of work, the commitment, the endurance, the focus that Faye has. She is a one-woman powerhouse, and we're going to get into what she does. But on a personal level, we were chatting last week, I think, about trying to schedule for this, and some of you know I had a new grandson born this past week, so we were putting it off until we knew when the baby was born and all the other stuff. And I had my youngest son induction into the IDF. So it's been a busy week, and we had to find a time between our busy schedules. I think, Faye, honestly, that you're so busy, I feel guilty taking your time because as I'm talking to you, I know you're not communicating on the WhatsApp groups to
I'm going
everyone.
to have 1,000 messages when I hang up.
Thousand, right? We're all
Always.
we're all gonna get slammed. But when you after you hear this conversation and have an appreciation for what Faye is doing, not single-handedly, but she's the head of the spear. Faye runs two plus really important initiatives, and she founded these. One is called Pens for Sword, swords being the Operation Swords of Iron, which is the war that we're almost a year into here. And Faye, you'll give me the background, the history. I don't recall, but I know that I connected only in the last year since the war here in Israel began. And then there's Students for Jewish Advocacy, which you can follow on Instagram, which is also a parallel initiative specifically for Jewish students. But I want to encourage everyone to check it out. Go to Instagram, Students for Jewish Advocacy, follow, and that's the best way to connect with what Faye's doing. But so I don't forget, and I'm going to try to remember to announce it at the end. If anyone wants to be part of it, to receive all of the updates, and it's a lot, and be part of what Faye is leading, I want to ask you to contact me through the contact form that's in the notes here, or through our email, inspirationfromzion@gmail.com, and we will connect you in a way that you can also participate. But anyway, that's a long-winded introduction. Faye, thank you for making time today. I know you also carry a lot of weight on your shoulders with your family, with your business, and this advocacy is more than a full-time job, isn't it?
Yeah, it's 24/7, middle of the night, all day. Like I said, my phone is going to be chock full of messages when I hang up with you. Even in the middle of the night, I always wake up once in the middle of the night because I'm over 50, and I check messages, and I have 50 WhatsApps to go through. You just, you said one thing that I just want to correct, and then you actually corrected it. You said I'm a one woman show. I have a team of just extraordinary people who are just brilliant writers, researchers, tech
Ah,
people, links. It's not a woman show. I feel like I'm just the secretary getting it
got
out,
it.
message out to all of you.
Got it. So where did the initiative come from? Is it in fact new since the war and I just came in,
Yes.
or did I just come into it? Tell us about the origins.
Okay. So I've always written letters since I'm a little kid. I remember opening my Wrigley's pack of gums, and there was 4 slices instead of 5, and I wrote my strongly worded letter to Wrigley's, and they sent me a coupon for a free package. But after October 7th, I was like everybody else. I was very riled up by seeing people rip down hostage posters in the city. So I would see them on Instagram. I would find out, well, I wouldn't find out who they were. Somebody would post who they were. I would find out where they worked, who their
Wow.
landlord was, where
Oh
what
my.
bank they banked at, and I would write strongly worded letters and I would share them with my friends. And then I started to share them on Instagram, and people were just kept on joining and joining, and they wanted to be part of it. So I switched to oh, did I lose you? I
No.
switched to WhatsApp because it was just much easier to get everything going. And people kept sharing the link and sharing the link. And I recruited more writers, researchers, volunteers. Everybody feels this passionately. Every single Jewish person that I know. And everybody was willing to use whatever talent they had. So I also partnered up with some amazing groups like End Jew Hatred, and just some other women like me, or some men. There's actually a guy who does this. Who run these WhatsApp chats, and we all partner together now to make sure, like, if I get a letter, I share it with them to make sure it's amplified by everybody, and they do the same. It's funny, we've become a sad kind of family. We've been through so much together, this little group, because it's ups and downs and wins and losses, and we're human, and if we mourn, just like last week when 6 of our hostages were killed, I couldn't do a thing. I had to put my phone away for the first time in a year. And I said to you on the group, I said to everybody, today I'm going to spend the day with my family. Like, I'm not going to be answering any messages. Um, but the response by people, not just Jewish people, I actually just posted something from a amazing Christian man from England that gives us support today. The response has been unbelievable. People are so happy to do this. They feel empowered in a world where they feel very helpless right now.
So we're talking about this. Let's talk about what the this is. What are people seeing in Pens for Swords, and what's the mission?
I'll tell you. So right now, what started with one group has just, I'm almost starting my 14th group. So that's almost 14,000 people. And then, like I said, my partner groups have a couple thousand also. And then everybody shares it. So what is it exactly? So we take issues that we fight for Israel, we fight for our hostages, and we fight anti-Semitism. If there's any issue that comes up, we either tackle it or we get somebody in the local community who is familiar with the situation to write a comprehensive letter. And those letters, which have to be backed up with references, are 100% accurate, has as much proof as we could provide, legal information, what it means for, let's say, the university, or whoever. We'll write to the government. Today we wrote to Chuck Schumer, we wrote to Biden, Harris. We'll write to a store who has a T-shirt that says Israel is garbage. We will go crazy on the Red Cross for not seeing our hostages ever. So whatever the issue is, we tackle it. We create these easy links. So somebody like you gets on my group, I post it, and I make it as easy as possible with a picture so it's aesthetically pleasing and people understand what they're writing about. You don't have to read the letters if you don't have time. Obviously, we prefer that you do. You click on the link, it goes right into your email. Everything's set up for you. You just send. So I think the vast majority of people at this point trust us, and they don't even read the letters.
Yeah.
So, but many people do, which we appreciate, because if we have a typo, we like to be like super
Um,
professional and perfect.
Well, I
Um,
was going to say, Faye, one of the things that you've engendered is a tremendous amount of integrity. And so it makes sense that people are just clicking and sending, because anything that you send out is 1,000% legit and essential. So it's nice to have that integrity. But yeah, you're right. It's nice to have people checking and making sure that there's not a typo.
yeah. Um, so, I mean, we check it like crazy, and we go through a whole rigorous process. But so that's really what this group is. It's I would say we send about 10, maybe a little bit more letters per day that go out. They at the if somebody cranks it all out in the morning or at night or one time of the day, or does
Um,
it throughout the day, it probably takes no more than 10 minutes to just click send, sometimes you have to copy and paste, let's say to the president. We can't email him. He has an online form, so that might take an extra few seconds. But we set it up so it's so clear what the letter is about. We put a little description with a picture, and then we put the link.
do you remember what the first cause that you sent a letter about?
Me personally, it was, I believe, a teacher named Darren King from NYU who was ripping down hostage
He,
posters.
he himself. And so you sent something, what, to NYU and
And to
told.
him, my feeling on it and how, I wrote a very strongly worded letter.
Very nice. And yeah, you mentioned that there. I was doing just quickly scrolling through some of the recent WhatsApps. It's really quite amazing the breadth. You've got you've got letters to universities and high schools, large cities. I think the other day was to Mayor Adams of New York, and you mentioned Chuck Schumer, but also small towns. And that's something I really want to come back to because there was a message you sent recently about the need to send letters specifically to small towns that I really want to amplify. Media, it's just so broad and it's amazing. But also, I'm glad you just gave me the tip because when I see your messages, I feel pressured to do it right away, but I don't always have time. So then I let it slide. But you know what? Of course, I can make 10 minutes in a day and just click one after the other. So thank you for
Yeah.
that.
I actually had my friend sit down last week and I said, start from the morning till the night and crank them all out. And I timed him on a timer and I actually put it in the group. I don't know if you saw it. And it was under 8 minutes.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. So I want to talk. Well, yeah, I think maybe this is a direction to go. I think it's been a few weeks. You had sent a note out that we needed to send an email to a specific town. I don't remember where. I have a feeling it was in the West Coast or at least on the other side of the Mississippi River from where you are. And and the point you made was so concise in that most people in these town councils that are being asked to vote on a anti-Israel resolution don't know what's going on and they can and by educating them that's important, but by showing that there's a demand, that there's actually not just hating people in their communities who want to do something evil that might be anti-Israel or anti-Semitic, but you explained in a very rational way why even such letters to small towns is important. Can you speak about that a little?
Of course. My passion. So what one of my I call her my Erin Brockovich. She's one of the partners on my group. She's behind the scenes, never has her face in public, her email, her name is not out there, nothing. She's like super, super secret spy. But she uncovers these unbelievable things when she's doing her research for letters. And what she uncovered a couple of months ago is that, I should preface this by saying that pro-Hamas people definitely had a leg up before October 7th, right? Like they were prepared um, with a lot of different things that they've been working on for years that we're just getting hit with now. So this is something that we feel was definitely planned way before. So what they do is these pro-Hamas people will go from these teeny little cities and big cities, Los Angeles and some place in Oregon or Kentucky, and they will harass, literally go down to the city council meetings and scream at them, shame, shame, or baby killers or whatever it is. Even though these are like random people who just want to make decisions about street
Yeah,
signs.
and go home and have dinner.
Yeah, like they're just regular family people who care about their town and they're volunteering their time or working, whatever they're doing. Anyway, so what they're doing is they're going from city to city to try to get the city councils to vote. We used to call them a ceasefire resolution, but now
Yeah.
it's not that. We renamed it to an anti-Israel resolution because now they're bringing in BDS and they're bringing in anti-Israel and boycotting even local goods in their own little supermarkets, as well as ceasefire. And they're putting information on these city council members that most of them do not have any clue where Israel or Gaza is on the map. Okay. Maybe have not even met a Jew in their life,
Correct.
but certainly
Excellent
not
point.
an Israeli. Um, so obviously, we don't think that anybody in local city council should be making any kind of have any kind of impact on foreign policy. But what they're doing is they're forcing these people to vote, and they're pressuring them to vote their way. And this information is going up the chain to the government, from to the governor, the mayor, the elected officials, all the way up to the White House, so they could say, look, 100 cities across the country or plus are against this war. Stop funding the war. Stop sending arms. Stop, divest from Israel. Alienate this country. Genocide. Blah blah. Whatever nonsense that's not backed up by any fact. So what we do is we send them letters, different letters depending on the stage of the resolution that the city is up to, and we arm them with information. These letters are long, but we do ask them, if you're going to make a decision about a country
Oh,
thousands of miles away, you better be educated about it. And we very nicely provide them with every fact that they need and every backup and every reference and every source. So that's what we're very busy with. Today we're sending to 3 cities in Oregon.
so that's why Oregon was on your mind. Faye, let's take a really quick break. I want to pause this and then want to come back to talk about some of the successes, the successes and challenges. But let's take a very quick break.
Okay.
Okay. Explain, like, when we were talking a little bit before about how you're monitoring the efficacy. Let's talk specifically about these small towns. How do you know in the end where the resolutions are coming? It could probably go whether they even have a revolution, Freudian slip, resolution, or have one and vote it down or vote for it. How are you monitoring, keeping score?
So we have volunteers who are willing to do that. We actually have some students that help us. They're like internet sleuths. Very often we find out that morning when there's a vote that afternoon. You'll see on the group, please,
Oh,
time sensitive, sign it now, do it now, share it. Um, and sometimes it's just like a month away, and we'll find out about it. We Very often we have somebody in the city tell us what the outcome was. If we don't know anybody in the city, then we track it down on news sources, or we eventually find out. And sometimes there is a tracker somewhere that this we have a ceasefire group that works on this. They know exactly which cities we lost and which we won. But we
okay.
find that, and this is the purpose of me doing that video at that point, we found that when our numbers grow, we're more successful. Because actually one council member told us, when you get 6,000 emails in your email box, you better pay attention to what they're saying. So they're
Yes.
definitely listening.
And the concern, of course, how do you said before, the pro-Hamas people are very well prepared, and they don't, truth doesn't matter, so any lie can go, and there are a lot of them. Is there a concern? We have to counter this, but is there a concern that they're going to get wise and create
They
an
are they are very wise. A lot of them are pretty wise. A lot of them are um, people who socially never belonged anywhere, and they feel like they have a cause to get behind. Muslims obviously feel differently. This is their family. I do understand their passion and I do understand their pain. Okay, I do. Um, but obviously, this wasn't a war that Israel wanted. None of us want this war. Um, and we all know who's responsible, Hamas. So, but we don't all agree on that. But we know the truth. Um, we don't always win. It's also, we're not a mighty nation. We're a small nation. And even though we do have amazing, beautiful Christian allies or other religions, we are small, and that's the way God intended it to be. We're mighty, we're small, we do whatever we can. They're gonna be louder. We have to convince people to just ignore the noise and get to the truth.
And you're so good at it. It's just a really helpful resource. What's been you talked about the challenges and not always winning. What's been your greatest disappointment in doing all of this?
Um, when Ilan Omar won, I actually cried.
Oh,
Um, that was a hard one. We really we went to town on that one. We killed ourselves. It was hard. And my finest writer, or one of the finest writers who worked on it, she needed a break after, because after that mentally she was so drained.
oh,
But we get a lot of wins. We actually post our wins every Friday, so everybody's motivated. I post them as we get them, but then we compile a list every Friday before Shabbat, just to give everybody motivation to that what they're doing matters, and it absolutely matters. We see it every single day.
so
Um,
what are the biggest wins? I wanted to ask you about that. If I were to say, what are the top three things that we collectively have all been most successful at? What would you say?
Well, it's a lot of the things are hard to pinpoint where it's coming from, but of course, anytime a school listens and an encampment was cleared, or people got arrested, or even Nassau County just passed this mask ban, that was such a heartwarming win, because now we could use that as a precedent for other counties across the country. We get little wins sometimes. There was in University of Southern California just yesterday. There was a very inappropriate, offensive T-shirt about Palestine, Israel. Some I don't remember what it said. We got that T-shirt out of there right away. There was a license plate going around. Was it Milwaukee?
Oh,
Um, maybe maybe it was somewhere in Illinois, and it said like October 7th with Free Palestine on the
yes,
rim. We got that
yes.
got that removed from the DMV. JetBlue, that was a very nice win. Also, they are using a third party to get their maps out on their world maps on their
On the
in-seat map
planes. Yeah.
tracker, and it said Palestinian territories. It had Israel in small. It was like messing up the Golan Heights. It was like Gaza. Like it was just so not factual. We went to town on them, and within a day, they fired that third party. They're already getting a new company. I don't know if they actually were able to do the technology on the planes yet, but I know for sure they fired the first company, and they're getting another third party to supply their maps now. So, of course, there's always like the cities that pass the IHRA laws. This,
International Holocaust, what is our
oh,
the text that everyone's following about what the definition of anti-Semitism is.
exactly. And that's very important for our schools. It's important for things that happen on the streets, you know. So those are always nice wins. Um, there were a couple of things that I can't remember offhand, but big ones that I remember dancing in my kitchen. Like I just remember grabbing my kids and being like I was so happy. It made everything worth it. So, and of course, there's always the losses, you know. Personally, I just keep looking forward. I will get too upset, and I need to be focused on moving forward. So I just say, okay, we lost, move forward. Let's go.
What do you feel like if you could wave a wand, what's your biggest need in order to be more effective?
Um, okay, but well, my biggest need in life right now, besides obviously family stuff, um, I personally need the hostages home. That's why I'm doing this. I own my own business that I've been totally neglecting, and it's not doing great. Yeah, but I can't stop doing this because I'm doing this for them. When they are home safely, I probably will pass this over to an organization that I trust. I don't plan on doing this forever. It's not sustainable. It's not healthy. I'm just not getting enough. I can't do anything. It's 24/7, literally 24/7.
Yes.
I have
Yeah.
been in the shower conditioning my hair, been on Zoom calls like with the mic, you know, everything off. I mean, because you gotta, I have to get this done. Um, but the biggest need, one of our challenges is definitely technologically, like what's working, what's not working. A lot of systems block us, so we never get the message through to them. That's a problem. We're always finding crafty ways, and I don't want to give it up here in public,
Of
but
course.
we have been working around that. Challenges is pushing people to just share the link. We need more people. We're a small nation. We got to have a big, mighty voice. So every day I'm pushing people and encouraging them to share the link.
Great. Okay. So you know what? I want to begin to wrap it up because I want to take people into different forms of activism, but let's take one last break before we kind of go into our third quarter.
Sure.
Okay. Um, yeah, I thought of it before we spoke, and I forgot, and then you just reminded me. We're contemporaries. I'm not asking your age, but we both have four grandchildren, right? So we're contemporaries, and you spoke about writing letters to Wrigley's gum, and I did things like that when I was a kid growing up in New Jersey. Not for gum. I wrote to Jimmy Carter as president and other
Wow.
kinds of things. Yeah, but yeah, I didn't get any free gum though. Uh, but there's so many ways that people can be active, and I think perhaps for a lot of people following right now, it's a foreign conversation because it's not innate. For you, it's innate. For people following and you're making it easy, it becomes innate. But for somebody who just doesn't know, I mean, of course, it's very easy. What's like other than participating, and I'm gonna ask people to respond to me, either at inspirationfromzion@gmail.com or through the link that we're providing here for people to send information. And we're being careful about that. And the reason being is that we don't need hackers. There are a lot of evil people who are just going to create problems. So we're going to be very careful about how we disseminate and who gets involved. But we need more people. What's the essence of, if someone's listening now and they don't, maybe they don't want to be part of it, but what can they do just individually, sitting in their homes, once a day, once in a while, to do something that's on their own?
Well, if they're on social media, I always say to give love to people who deserve it. Different representatives in the government that support Israel, Israel bills. That's always important to show love. Show love to any celebrity that's standing up for Israel. It's not an easy climate for anybody who's standing up for Israel right now. So courageous, because we know the hate that they get. Um, you're not going to like my answer, but I really truly believe this. I think the most important thing to do is, besides pray, of course, we have to pray to
Good,
God,
excellent.
because
That's a great answer.
yeah, God is the most important key here, and whatever He says is what's going to happen. So pray with all your heart. Pray for the hostages. Pray for peace. Pray for Israeli soldiers to be safe and to be successful, and for all of us to just be able to figure this out, and go back to living a normal life, and heal from this together. But what I think the most important thing to do besides that is be a kind person. Just add light to the world. Just even when we're writing letters, sometimes people write such angry letters, and I'm like, no, no, no,
Yes,
we have to be kind. We are not angry people. We are not mobbing airports and shutting down highways. We are not like these people. We are the light. So stay kind, pray to God, find an issue that bothers you, inspires you. Write a letter in your own words. It doesn't have to be a college essay. It doesn't have to. No one's grading you. Just get your feelings out, and make your voice heard. And if you're a Christian, a non-Jewish ally, make sure that your Jewish friends know that you have their backs, because we feel very alone now. I'm not a crybaby. I'm not an emotional person, but when an ally comes over to me and says something to me or sends me a message, I always cry. Always. It just like touches me in a way that nothing else can.
well, I could bring you a lot of tears because I'm very blessed by having all the support in general, but really since October 7th, and people, and it is inspiring. I try to share with other Jews how many Christians are out there who love us, who support us financially. And I'm so glad, I loved your answer on all levels, because you mentioned prayer. Prayer, first of all, is God's currency. I refer, when we do prayer events, that we are, and it's relevant to what you do. We're flooding God's inbox with prayer.
Love that.
Um, and he doesn't always answer, or he doesn't always give us the answer that we're looking for, but he's empowering us to partner with him on
Yeah.
everything. And that's really critical.
Yeah,
Um,
doing nothing is not an option. It's not, and every little thing means something. A teacher wearing a keffiyeh, no, no, no. We are going to go after that teacher. There's no keffiyehs. That's a modern day swastika. That's not. We're not going to let anybody normalize these things. We are fighting everything big and small.
Yeah, and I love how you approach it. I noticed it, but you're articulating it is also real important, just that it's all from a positive, from a kind perspective. And when you're going to a town council, yes, of course, you want to shut it all down and nip it in the bud, even though it's like we're fighting a cancer
Yeah,
that's in so many organs and cells of the global body, but it has to be done. Um,
we
I'm
call it
curious.
whack-a-mole.
Well, I refer to, yeah, I refer to you're doing whack-a-mole in one way, and I refer to the actual combat that my oldest son has been in Gaza. We're playing whack-a-mole with terrorists. You hit them in one place and they pop up in another, and it's still happening. While by the way, while we're talking today, I recorded this week's podcast with a military, political, and diplomatic expert. And as you and I are talking, I saw a message pop up from him saying, "Did you see the news?" So I'm not sure what news you and I are going to see in the next 10, 15 minutes when I
Oh,
let you go, but something probably has to do with Lebanon or the Israeli government, but we'll figure that out. I'm curious. You're talking about us as a people, and we're a small people, and I love everything about your perspective and the conversation and how you're framing it. Um, Do you have relatives here in Israel?
Yes, I actually my nephew was in Gaza for quite a few months. My daughter is in Israel for the year right now. Um, I have cousins. I have a ton of family there, a lot of cousins there, and I also lived there for a year after, like, my gap year between high school and college.
Got it.
Um, yeah, and we go a lot. I go at least once a year, twice a year.
So what about October 7th? What about the hostages? It's very passionate when you're thinking about it, and when you talked about the day that the six hostages were found, that had been executed, that you needed a break. Why
Yeah.
is that? I don't think it's intuitive for a lot of people, including Jews, that this should upset our DNA.
I actually feel the opposite. I feel like every Jewish person was beaten down that day. Every Jewish person is consumed by the hostages. At least where I am, there all the stores have pictures of the hostages in the windows. Everyone's walking around with the dog tags. There's constantly challah bakes, and there's constantly, things for Israel going on. There's an Israel Chesed Center where they had a big fake shuk this weekend to raise money for Israel. They're sending stuff to soldiers. Tons of stuff went to soldiers. Millions of dollars was raised around here for soldiers and equipment that they needed. Um, I will say one of the other things that motivated me from the very beginning was I have a very close friend whose son made Aliyah, and he was in the army. And at the very beginning, he was in Gaza for months in the tanks, and he couldn't get up. They couldn't walk around, and he was getting him and all his buddies in his unit. They were getting like these very very swollen legs and hemorrhoids, and they had to have special medicines. And I always think when I want to slow down, like I'm like, oh, I need a break. Like let me just take off and watch TV for a night. I think this kid Yonatan, not Yonatan, Yonatan's the brother. Amiel was in there in the tanks with his swollen legs, and he wasn't able to take a break. I'm a soldier. I'm a soldier in the comfort of my own home with a warm bath and a shower and food in the fridge. So that's very motivating for me. So your children that are in the army are another motivating point. We're all in this together. We're fighting
Yeah.
so many different wars on so many different fronts. I'm lucky to fight it without risking my life.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. This is very personal, but this week I had a grandson born. This week, my youngest son was inducted into the IDF, and we raced back an hour and 45 minutes from there to the wedding of son of some of our closest friends, people who we made Aliyah with on the same plane 20 years ago. So we had 2 days of joy, but I have to tell you, I feel guilt almost too, because we shouldn't be so joyful. And I know and other people disagree with that and say that it's
Agreed.
wrong. You
Jewish
disagree.
joy is the best weapon. I love seeing there was a protest here in my neighborhood, the young boys with their flags and singing, and I get such pride. Jewish joy is the best weapon. They will
But
never
it
take that from us.
but it can't be exclusive to acknowledgement, as you just said, of your friend's son who was sitting in a tank so much, and the suffering. D- in December, we started raising money for winter jackets. I remember October 7th so vividly. My son came home at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and we didn't turn our TV or phone on. We had air raid sirens all morning, but we didn't turn anything on, and we didn't know really what's going on.
Oh
And
wow.
it's a horrible feeling when your 25-year-old newlywed son comes home and says, I have to get all my equipment, I'm going to Gaza.
Yeah.
And to watch him drive off, that was terrible. Also, what you said that we reminded me, and I forget about it because it's honestly become so innate with me. But my son was called up that day. My son-in-law was called up. His base was one of the ones that was overrun by terrorists. And I think it will kill him to the end of his life that he didn't have the opportunity to go down and fight the terrorists because they told him not to come down because it wasn't safe.
Isn't that crazy?
And
How many levels of trauma there is?
oh, there's so and he's the one who just had a son, and my oldest two grandsons, I think, still have trauma from all of this. But when, naturally, m- my wife and I weren't sleeping. and less so when my son would text us and say, "I'm giving up my phone now," which is shorthand for "I'm going into Gaza and I don't know when I'll be able to be in touch with you." And
Yeah.
that's it's terrifying. It's
Yeah.
absolutely terrifying. But from early on, and you said we're over 50, don't sleep well. I have an additional uh I have a prostate, and not to get really weird, but that also keeps me up at night. And to be honest, I figured if I'm not sleeping, I would what I do well, I write and I write articles. So
Good
I don't use it enough, but I created hashtag my words are my weapon. And I've written probably
idea.
150 articles since October 7th.
You should write for us.
I don't do research well. I can sit and knock out 1,000 word article about whatever's on my mind in about an hour, and I feel good and I have places that publish it. But rather than sitting and crying all day and being um, hijacked by the trauma, by the emotions,
Yeah.
we all, we all have the opportunity to do something. And I think one of the things that I so admire, not about only how you do it, but what you're doing, is you give somebody who isn't an innate activist the ability to spend 8 minutes in a day and make a big impact.
Yeah.
And I
And
appreciate
everybody has a gift in life, and my gift is having a big mouth, and I'm using it.
it.
I am.
There
I
you
remember
go.
my principal told me when I was little, he said, "You're very fiery. You're a firecracker. You're going to go somewhere." And this is my calling. It's to get people to help Israel and help ourselves.
Oh, thank God for you, Faye.
Oh, thank
Really,
you. Thank you.
really.
My team is amazing.
And that, yes, the hostages should all come home soon,
Yeah,
tomorrow.
please.
We need, and everyone can pray for that. That's the best. And your success, and I think because of how passionate you are, you probably can identify a couple of places that you might pass this off to, but it's still your baby, and that's going to be at the right time, which you need to do, take a step back and pass it
Yeah.
off and not have this impact. You won't be any less of an activist or big mouth, um, but we have,
It's definitely like I don't. It's there's no breathing room. Like I
yeah.
haven't got my hair color. Well, there's no time off. Even I went on vacation with my daughter, been on quite a few trips already since October 7th. And my daughter knows already when we're walking in the street, she holds my hand while I'm texting and going and linking and do like I can't look. Very often I'll stop, I'll take it in. Okay, next.
Oh
There's no
dear.
stopping.
But you at least have quality time with your daughter.
I always make time for my kids and my grandchildren. Yeah,
That's
that I put my
important.
phone away.
Okay, so that's important, and that's something that we could have another conversation about, because that's also an important skill. Faye, before I let you go and become overwhelmed for a few minutes with all the messages you're getting, what else do you want to share to our listeners, to our viewers, about what they need to know, how they can be involved? Um, Anything?
Well, first of all, they can contact you to be involved in these groups. We're obviously keeping them very tight and secure because we don't want the bad guys to get in. Um, the other thing is, if you have students, I would love for them to join Students for Jewish Advocacy. It's written out, Students for Jewish Advocacy on Instagram. You can DM. I'm the one who answers it, and you could join. You could just watch what we're doing there. We put a couple of letters there so students can join in, and of course, like we would love Christian allies to help us because you
Yes.
guys are powerful and smart and wonderful people, and we need good people on our side. So that's what I would say, and just pray for Israel.
Yeah, and appropriately, it's Students for Jewish Advocacy, not Jewish Students for Jewish Advocacy. So yeah, your point is a very good point.
Yeah,
Um, Faye, thank you. First of all, wow, what a pleasure to be able to actually speak and not be sending intermittent messages through WhatsApp,
yeah.
and trying to schedule this, and to see you. And thank you for sharing what you're doing and what you're doing.
Thank
Um,
you.
Really a
Thank you.
privilege.
I'm
I
honored.
want to, as we thank you. I want to just wrap up as we always do in our podcasts. Now we're 3+ years old, and for the last, well, for most of it, we've had this special program to encourage you to share the link to this episode, to comment, to like it, and that's all we're asking you to do. Not a lot. Like Faye makes it very easy. Share, comment, or like, and then we do that every month. We give away a free book, and we started out. I'm looking at my bookshelf. I had copies of books that have inspired and educated me. We started with that, but a year ago last week, we came out, the Genesis 123 Foundation, with our own book called Israel the Miracle, 75 essays by Christian leaders from all over the world writing about why Israel is so significant. And it's a gorgeous, gorgeous coffee table book that retails for $75. So every month, we are picking one person who shares, likes, or comments on one of the episodes. That's all you have to do. And we're going to pick one person at random this month to receive a free copy of Israel the Miracle. We're always grateful that the Inspiration from Zion podcast is sponsored by our friends at the Willow Run Greenhouse in Culpeper, Virginia. If you're ever in the area, I always tell people to pop in, flood their inbox, and thank them for helping make conversations like this possible. And special thanks is to our friends, the Coin family, as well, for their meaningful sponsorship. Inspiration from Zion and all of the Genesis 123 Foundation programs are made possible by donations. So please consider joining us to continue helping make programs and dialogue like this possible. And I have the prerogative, this is a relatively late scheduled podcast, so I didn't really put it out there for people to be sponsors, but I have the prerogative as the host. And today, Faye, I'd like to sponsor this episode in your honor, and I hope you'll share it with all of your team I'm getting emotional thinking about what you're all doing, and I want to really just ask you to share this, that they should get a few minutes of inspiration and our thanks. But if anyone following today would like to sponsor an episode in honor of or memory of a loved one, special occasion, or your favorite activist, please be in touch at inspirationfromzion@gmail.com. We'd always love to hear your comments as part of a dialogue and invite you to send questions, especially about traditional Judaism, for our Ask the Rabbi programs. Please consider sharing this with others who will also find it of interest, and continue to join us right here where we bring you more meaningful conversations about topics relating to Israel that you won't hear anywhere else. Wherever you are in the world, I pray that you and your loved ones are all safe and healthy, and I send my blessings from right here in the Judean mountains. God bless you.